This dude's question is pretty intense, and it has words that I don't understand, but I'll try and read it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a long ass question too. It's 3 lines in Notepad.
You should
Okay,
have sent me these before we like.
I should have, but yeah. Anyway, okay. I'm assuming that the life on WoW as a guild leader in a position like yours is somewhat like a politician's life, in being that each major decision made or in the making is being watched under the microscope and scrutinized by the WoW community and other high-end guilds. How do you deal with that? For example, transferring servers. Have you had any issues or backlash from other raiding guilds who were sitting like pretty well on top of progression on this server, only to be knocked down when you guys came along?
Um, Regarding the first part of the question, I guess like dealing with well, I don't know, like you always got to worry about the guild image and whether well, I'll give you an example, right? When we transferred to Gundrak and stuff, a long time ago, we were like absolutely hammered by everyone. Like everyone was like, "Oh, don't do this." I mean, like they shouldn't be counted. They essentially got an extra week of progression and all this shit. When we did that transfer. But the thing is, at that point in the game, we were doing shit for publicity, really speaking, and it did pay off because we wouldn't like post it everywhere, and like any publicity is good publicity.
That's
Like
true.
we never shit talked anyone when we did it, but we also weren't like oh, we're doing it for the sole purpose of this or whatever, blah 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 blah. Like there was reason behind it. Obviously, we wanted extra attempts, we wanted the titles, blah blah blah. But I mean, really speaking, we're in a different league to every like majority of other US guilds because us being no
West.
no no not leagues as in level leagues. I'm talking about our recruiting pool, all that kind of shit. So what we
He's a bit
do,
elitist.
what we do is no, what I mean is time zones. I'm not talking about our players' skill.
You
I'm talking about
definitely said
time zone.
league.
No, sorry, my bad. Well, the Oceanic, like, we have a strict pool of players, right?
Yeah.
And, like, things like this actually attracted, like, some of the top players of our guild because it showed, like, dedication. Like, people were willing to fork out, like, $50 for a game that they play, whatever. Because most people are like, oh, I can't be spending money on WoW and shit like that. Like, why would you pay to play a game? Blah, blah, blah. That kind of mentality, even though they're paying $15 a month. Like, why would you pay extra kind of thing? And, those things like it's all dependent. Like there's always risk and reward, and you just got to figure out whether it's worth it or not. There's always been like massively huge benefits. Like when we killed US first Lich King and we posted that video, we got like 200,000 views. Who the hell does not want 200,000 views on their
That's true.
YouTube channel?
I
Like
don't.
seriously. Like I mean, getting the name of your guild out there is important, just as important as like anything else out there to be successful. Um, and in regards to like other people, for example, when we came to BlackRock, the reason was because we'd been talking with guilds on this server for a long time. I mean, there was people who were like telling us not to come because it's just gonna ruin everything, blah blah blah. But we came because we wanted like the better PvP. Like Dreadmore, like as much as I love that server, it had nothing going for it at the time, and probably still doesn't at the moment. Like, really speaking, we were the only ones on that server doing anything, and if it wasn't us, then it'd be 7 months later, the next guild would like get content down, kind of thing. It makes the game really boring when you're not surrounded by players like all the time because it was generally a dead server. And when we came to BlackRock, a couple of guilds actually disbanded and left and stuff like that. One of them was Elementium, if you remember.
Yeah.
They transferred off so that they had a better chance at competing in the Oceanic game. So they went to Bartholus. And other than them is Mediocrity, one of like the major ones. Like they they didn't disband, but a lot of their core joined us. Like even though they're US players, we picked up a lot of excellent players from there, and also the Dark Ministry from Alliance. And like when you look at it, you do whatever you can to get like the best players, and if our players are also gonna have more fun on this server, then like it's it's what's worth it, I guess. Like we're not if we're getting tired and sick of like playing the game on Dreadmore and a change of scene makes like the game fun again, then it's worth it, I guess. It doesn't matter what other people think because it's what works for us.
Poonage.
Yeah,
I actually don't remember what the question was,
I do.
but I think you just answered every question ever. Okay, next question. What kind of an add-on do you use to regulate raids? Like one that regulates Suicide Kings lists?
What the hell,
What?
suicide?
I don't know.
What?
I
I've
don't know,
never
probably
heard.
probably dying on the elevator or something.
Nah.
And have you been playing since vanilla? If so, ask him what his favorite change is throughout WoW's developments. So,
Uh,
yeah.
I've been playing since March 2005, I think it was. So about 6 months after release, and the only reason I started late was because of like I used to play CS back at the time, and like everyone on CS was like, "Oh, WoW fags, WoW's for fags," and that's pretty much what held me back. Um, I was like 15 at the time, and since then
Peer pressure.
since then I haven't stopped playing WoW. I think the longest I lasted was 3 days or something. When I first tried to quit, because like my best friend was quitting WoW, and like our guild was disbanding and blah blah blah. Ended up watching like 3 seasons of Scrubs in a week, three to 6 seasons or some shit. It was ridiculous. I was like, yeah, there's not much I'm doing out like outside of WoW. I mean, I was like in grade 10, and I never used to do shit at school. I used to be like always playing games, and so I was just like, no, screw it, WoW's for me. And that's the only time I can remember like taking a break from WoW, other than this last break, which I went overseas. Otherwise, I would have been online. Um, but throughout the whole history of WoW, I think the biggest change would be, I don't know. There's well, I used to play a rogue, right? So I used to love everything to do with rogues, and I still do. And like seeing Wind Fury hit like 4 or 5 times on a single attack was like fucking great.
Yeah, that was
Like it
bold.
was so awesome, and I hated that change. I don't think there's been a change that I've ever been like, oh my god, that's awesome. Because like afterwards, it's always just been like, oh, new content's out. Let's raid. It's not been
Bro.
like, oh, this class has changed so significantly. I'm so happy, kind of thing. But yeah, once I played my paladin and they introduced Beacon of Light, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool and that kind of shit. I mean, yeah.
Poon.
What's up, Haiku?
Not needing fade leaf, man.
Oh, bro, you know what? I played my rogue. Firstly, I didn't have Fade Leaf. I never used to use blind, right?
Oh, shit.
Like, yeah, I know. I was so horrible at the game when I started. I only started using poisons at level 60. So I had no clue what they were. And to top it off, with Fade Leaf, I had no idea what the like. I was just like, I didn't even have blind bound, because I just used to be like, oh, what's this? Like, what's the point of that spell? That's dumb. And and so I never used it. I mean, I never PvP, and I never like. I mean, you could always vanish a mob off you and stuff like that. But like, I started raiding the day I hit 60, because like I joined. I was in one of my friends' guilds, and they got me like into raiding like straight away. And from like my first raid, started making friends like with like lots of people. And I used to talk a lot with the main tank of the guild, and he got me into the whole theory crafting and shit, of like rogue stuff and glancing blows and all that kind of shit, and ended up like topping the DPS by the like end of that. And from there moved on to bigger things, I guess, because that guild disbanded. But yeah.
Bigger and better things.
Mm.
Okay. And last question, unless Jason has thought of a question, and this whole time he hasn't said anything.
No, got nothing.
Last question is, how is your loot done during raids, and is there ever any problems involved in loot?
There used to be problems with loot because like people who play for loot generally don't last in the guild. But we do master loot, and what we do is during progression we just give the items to whoever it's gonna benefit most, like raid DPS wise.
Like DKs.
Yeah, like DKs, and
Anyone
not
but Klinda.
not Fury Warriors, because Fury Warriors are horrible on progression. Nah.
Fuck my life.
No, like generally during progression we don't gear healers at all unless they need it, stuff like that. Tanks and DPS have always been priority. That was like a huge advantage we had over a lot of guilds, especially during ICC and stuff like that. Um, I guess, yeah, there's never been too many issues, but there's definitely been people who've quit over not getting gear and stuff. But yeah, as I said, like the people who are playing for loot, like specifically, aren't the ones that are amazing to your raids and stuff like that. If they're gonna quit over something so small, like it's pointless having them.
Yeah.
Like a good example would be
SC.
yeah, SC was a good example where he left over not getting a death choice because we wanted to gear up one of our new like reroll characters who was an officer and stuff like that.
Mm.
Who else? Yeah, I think that was one of the major ones that stood out. But yeah, it's just been everyone's pretty chill with like loot because really speaking, in Adept, you're gonna get your gear before you're gonna get them in most other guilds. So unless they have an option of like joining another top 10 guild where they're guaranteed gear or whatever it is, like if they're playing for gear, really speaking, it's like a better option just to like let it slide and just go with the flow, I guess.
That just about does it. This is a fucking long
Oh,
interview.
I got one for you.
Oh, here
I
we
got
go.
one for you.
So
How do you deal with ego-headed idiots in your raids? It's sometimes good to keep them around if they're actually really good, but a lot of them think they're better than they are when they're raiding.
Oh.
The biggest problem
Are
is
you,
when
are you dropping names here, Jason?
no, don't drop names, please. The biggest problem you're gonna ever have is when people think that they're the best player when they're actually far from it. Because they're the ones that get hurt a lot when, like, for example, they don't get taken to the main progression raid or they don't get taken for whatever reason to a certain fight. And the only way you can deal with it is by talking to them and leveling with them and making them understand that this is why like for example, if person A is messing up constantly on a mechanic on a fight, you need to tell them, hey, look, you just don't seem to be doing this fight right. Maybe it's not your night, whatever, blah blah blah. We're gonna get this person in. You don't need to be a dick about it. You don't need to rage at people. You just need to keep people happy and keep people like progressing rather than regressing, I guess.
Sick. So yeah, that was the interview. If you want to check out Adept, you can find them on adeptguild.com, and we're also on Facebook as well. So I hope you enjoyed it, and so yeah.